So I figured it was about time I share some of my journey. I share some of my story. This is something that I've tried to do in the past, but because of my healing at that time, I just wasn't ready to share more of the full picture of my life. So in this video and in one following, you will get to know what I've been through, a kind of a story of me, a story of my journey and where I've come from and what's brought me here right now. So yeah, I'm gonna pass it over to me, I guess. But enjoy. Let me know if you relate to anything that I talk about in this video in the comments. Let me know if you resonate with any of it. If this story can help you in some way, then I would be so grateful if you would let me know. No, I guess knowing that if my story can help somebody else through the same things, then that really means the complete world to me, and is kind of why I want to share this story, and is why I'm so adamant to get this story across, in the hope that it will help even just one person with whatever they may be going through, if my story can help them. So I'm going to pass it over to me. Enjoy. I guess it all started with my dad's, at the very beginning of my life. My dad had left my mum, and I was dotted between my mum and my dad's, and it caused me a lot of trauma early on in life. So I had a lot of abandonment issues through my whole childhood. I just struggled with abandonment, and how we lived was we would move to a house and we'd be moving somewhere else a year later, maybe 2 years later, and there was no stability. So I kind of got used to the fact that you meet people and you form friendships, and then it's over. Things come to an end. And through my childhood and my teenage years, I got into this mindset that nothing really lasts, and it took so much healing, and I'm still healing from it now, because it's really something that's stuck. Yeah, so I guess it all started with my parents. Not that my parents were at fault for my problems, but my childhood was a bit of a mess. My dad walked out of my life when, I think the last time I saw him I was 3 or 4, and I didn't see him. I tracked him down when I was 12, and that was difficult. Through my whole childhood I struggled with abandonment and rejection, and I was always that odd one out, always that odd kid who just didn't fit anywhere. And a part of me feels like that's because of how we lived, and we had, we lived in okay houses, but we never really had anything else apart from a house. But even then, we'd move to a new house every year, every 2 years. Sometimes we'd have to stay in B&Bs or hotels because my parents or my stepdad even did something, or didn't pay the rent, or whatever happened, and we had to leave, and we ended up being evicted. So there's always that instability, as well as that sense of rejection in my life, all through my childhood. And when I was 4 years old,
was 4 or 5 years old, I was involved in a sexual assault by a family member, and that's really been, I think, the strongest or the most intense trauma that I've had to deal with. And even now, just thinking about it causes a lot of pain. It made me struggle to understand my sexuality. I didn't know if I was normal, if my sexuality was related to what happened. And I later found out that what I remember happening didn't actually happen to me, which then left me with the questions: why do I remember a memory of something that happened? And something did happen, just not what I remembered. So it always leaves that question in my mind of, did it really happen and people just don't know about it, or I was too scared to speak up at that age? And now I'm trying to work through that and working on forgiveness and forgiving the person who did it. And that's really started from within myself. And I'm still working on that. I'm still working on the forgiveness and moving forward. And that's been, I think, the really biggest thing that I've had to get over is that assault and that memory. But I grew up in, my stepdad was quite violent all through my childhood. There were times when I remember when I was 7 years old, I was watching my mum crawling out of the house on her back because she was being kicked and beaten, and I called the police at 7 years old. And it was really difficult as a kid watching that and being the victim of violence myself, being beaten on a regular basis, having shoes whacked over me, being punched in the head. And it has caused a lot of trauma again that I've had to work through. And again, that's been really difficult because growing up, I developed a lot of anger problems myself, and I had to work through that. And to be honest, I didn't even acknowledge that I had anger problems for a very, very long time. And that was really difficult. And I can see now that it must have been really difficult for my parents living with me being so angry. And I think a lot of that is because I was always that kid who fell through the net. I went to counselling in school, and they just didn't see any problem with me. And I think that's a lot because I was very good, and I still am to this day, very good at disguising things. When there's something going wrong, I have a habit of hiding it, because I think through my childhood I didn't really feel that I had anywhere to turn to. I struggled to make friends because we were constantly moving around, and constantly, every time we'd move I'd lose contact with my friends, because this is before Facebook existed, this is before social media was a thing. And being young myself, I never thought to say, oh, what's your last name, because we might want to track each other down later in life. It just doesn't occur to you as a child. So that sense of rejection, abandonment, troublemaking friends, and even now, I mean, if you put me in a room full of strangers and tell me to make small talk, I just can't do it. I just can't do small talk. I can't initiate, I call them everyday conversations, because, if you come to me and start talking about a really deep topic, then yeah, I'll fire at it. But if you come at me, asking me, I don't know, talking about the weather, or I don't know, something you saw on TV, I can't do it. I can't process those things. I think that is a lot to do with my childhood and just the social situations that I was in. And I've always been quite reserved and wrapped up in myself. Talking about emotions for me is really difficult. It always has been. For as long as I can remember. So